I drove over to congratulate my husband on his promotion and unexpectedly caught him kissing his secretary, whose slender legs had always inspired a quiet envy in me. I left without a scene, maintaining an icy composure, though everything inside me was burning and crumbling. I simply transferred all the money from his accounts and changed the locks on the apartment. But that's when the truly interesting part began, something none of the participants in this love triangle suspected. Marina navigated her car into the business center's parking lot, skillfully maneuvering between expensive foreign automobiles. The spring sun glinted off the glossy cake box resting on the passenger seat beside a bouquet of blue irises, Anton's favorite flowers. She caught her reflection in the rearview mirror and adjusted a stray strand of hair, mentally rehearsing her prepared speech. "Congratulations, head of development," she whispered, practicing her smile. The guard at the entrance nodded amiably, recognizing her. He didn't even bother to call upstairs, simply waving her towards the turnstile. "Come in, Marina Andreevna. Anton Sergeyevich is in his office." He winked at her, as if complicit in the surprise. The director's wife is always a welcome guest. Director. The word sounded so right. They had worked towards this for 5 years. Endless overtime, business trips, evenings spent glued to a laptop. Marina had supported her husband in everything, foregoing vacations, postponing having children. Everything in its own time, Anton used to say, career first, then family. In the elevator, she reapplied her lipstick and straightened her ivory-colored dress, a new one purchased specifically for this day. The doors opened on the 12th floor, and Marina confidently proceeded down the familiar corridor towards her husband's office. Alina's desk, Anton's secretary, was empty. The computer was on, displaying a screensaver of a tropical beach. An unfinished coffee sat in a branded mug. The door to her husband's office was ajar, unusual considering his love for privacy while working. Marina intended to knock, but something stopped her. A strange sound emanated from the office. Not a business conversation, not a phone call, something else. She cautiously peeked through the gap between the door and the frame. The first thing she saw was her husband's back. Anton stood, pressing Alina against the wall. His hands slid beneath her silk blouse, and their lips were locked in a deep, ravenous kiss. Alina moaned softly, her head thrown back. Her delicate fingers, with their perfect manicure, tangled in Anton's hair. "Finally, we won't have to hide," Alina whispered as their lips parted for a moment. "Now that you're director?" Anton didn't let her finish, pressing his lips to hers again. Marina recoiled from the door. The bouquet slipped from her numb fingers, but she managed to catch it before it hit the floor. The cake was still clutched in her other hand, a ridiculous witness to the collapse of her world. She backed away silently, feeling not just her fingers, but her entire body go numb. Her legs moved as if on autopilot, carrying her away from the office, from that scene, from the betrayal she couldn't comprehend. In the business center's restroom, she vomited. The contents of her stomach, morning coffee and avocado toast, emerged in agonizing spasms. With trembling hands, she wiped her mouth with a paper towel and met her reflection in the mirror. A pale woman with dilated pupils stared back at her. Her lips, meticulously painted that morning, were now bitten raw. Marina turned on the tap and splashed cold water on her face, washing away the remnants of mascara. "Bitch," she whispered, looking in the mirror but addressing someone else. "Alina, you really are." Suddenly, the realization hit her. Alina knew about her arrival. She knew and had deliberately left the door ajar. It wasn't an accident. It was a performance, a display of dominance, a victor's triumph. Marina took a deep breath. Something cold and hard was forming inside her, displacing the pain and shock. She pulled out her phone and opened her banking app. 3,200,000 rubles in their joint account, and about another million in Anton's personal account, which she had access to. "For unexpected expenses," he'd said. She made her decision. At home, Marina methodically transferred money from all joint accounts to her personal account at a different bank, opened before their marriage. She screenshotted each transaction, preserving a digital trail. 4,180,000 rubles, their entire family nest egg, accumulated over years of marriage. Her hands no longer trembled. Every movement was precise, every decision cold and rational. She revoked Anton's access to the family safe, changing the code. Inside were the documents for the apartment, registered in her name as a wedding gift from her parents, jewelry, and a small amount of cash. Her next call was to a locksmith. The company promised to arrive within the hour. While she waited, Marina began packing Anton's belongings into boxes. Shirts, suits, watches, cufflinks. Everything was neatly folded into cardboard boxes, as if she were preparing a package, not discarding the remnants of her husband's presence in her life. In the bedside table drawer, she found an old phone, one Anton had supposedly given to his younger brother. She knew the password, their wedding date. What irony. Inside, she discovered correspondence between her husband and Alina, ongoing for half a year. She suspects nothing. Soon we'll be together. You drive me crazy. Phrases from the messages burned her eyes. Marina scrolled further back through the history, delving into a parallel reality where her husband led a double life. But the real shock awaited her in the phone's gallery. Photographs of Anton with some third woman, a blonde with ample curves, completely unlike either Marina or Alina. Judging by the geotags, the pictures were taken in Sochi a month ago, during the business trip from which Anton had returned, tanned and relaxed. Marina took a deep breath and, without allowing herself time for doubt, forwarded these photos to her phone, then created a new email address and sent the pictures to Alina's work email with a short message. He's not just cheating on his wife. A knock at the door announced the locksmith's arrival. An elderly man with a tired face listened impassively to her request to change the locks. "My husband lost his keys," Marina lied, presenting her passport with her registration. "Here are the apartment documents. It's fully registered in my name." The locksmith nodded, showing no interest in the marital drama. He'd seen enough of these stories to understand. Lost keys were the least of it. While he worked, Marina continued packing Anton's things. In the pocket of one of his jackets, she found a receipt from a jewelry store. Sapphire earrings purchased 3 days ago. Anton had never given her sapphire jewelry for any holiday or anniversary. Alina, however, often wore blue stones that complemented her eyes. The new locks were installed in 40 minutes. Marina paid the handyman and received 3 sets of keys. She kept one, placed another in the safe, and sent the third by courier to her mother, just in case. She neatly stacked the boxes with Anton's belongings in the building's entrance hall near the elevator. 7 cardboard boxes, all that remained of 5 years of marriage. On top, Marina placed a note. "Keys are with the concierge. Don't call me." Returning to the apartment, she sat on the sofa and for the first time that day allowed herself to cry. Tears flowed silently, offering no relief. The image played before her eyes. Anton pressing Alina against the wall, their entwined bodies, their shared secrets. The phone vibrated. A notification from the bank arrived about the blocking of Anton's card due to suspicious activity. They had reacted faster than she expected. This meant she had very little time before he returned home. Marina wiped her tears and opened her laptop. She needed to accomplish one more thing. She accessed her husband's cloud storage, the password still the same, their wedding date, and began browsing files. In a folder with the unassuming title, Project X, she found what she was looking for: dozens of photos of Anton with various women. Alina was just one of many. Marina methodically downloaded and sorted the images, creating an archive of betrayal. Each picture was dated. Each had a short description of the location and circumstances. Anton kept a peculiar diary of his conquests, unaware he was creating a weapon against himself. After finishing the archive, Marina sent a selection of photos to her mother-in-law's email. Olga Petrovna adored her son and never hid the fact that she considered Marina an insufficient match for him. Let her see what kind of angel she raised. The phone vibrated again. This time, it was Anton calling. Marina rejected the call and silenced her phone. She had nothing to say to him, not now at least, when the pain and rage were still too intense. She walked to the window. Evening was falling. Soon Anton would return home and discover he no longer had a home. What would happen next? Marina didn't know, but she was sure of one thing. She would no longer be a victim. The doorbell rang. Marina tensed, then remembered that Anton could no longer enter without her permission. She walked to the door and looked through the peephole. A courier stood in the hallway with a bouquet of flowers. "Delivery for Marina Andreevna," the young man said when she slightly opened the door. The bouquet was enormous, at least 50 red roses. Attached was a card. "Forgive me for everything." "We need to talk, Anton." Marina accepted the flowers, closed the door, and without hesitation, sent the bouquet down the garbage chute. She tore the card into tiny pieces. Her phone continued to vibrate with incoming messages and calls. Anton, her mother-in-law, even a few colleagues, everyone wanted to know what was happening. Marina turned off her phone and poured herself a drink. Anton raised a champagne glass, smiling at the colleagues gathered in a trendy bar near the office. His eyes sparkled with pride and anticipation. His appointment as head of development was the culmination of 5 years at the company. 5 years of strategic decisions, overtime, and carefully cultivated relationships. "To new horizons," he declared, surveying the room. 12 people, including Alina, seated a little further down, raised their glasses. Her dark blue dress accentuated her slender figure, and the sapphire earrings, the very ones purchased 3 days ago, sparkled in the dim bar light. "And to our new director, who will finally be able to bring all his bold ideas to life," added Victor, Anton's deputy and longtime friend. Alina smiled, but her gaze remained tense. She had already checked her phone twice in the last 5 minutes, as if awaiting an important message. Anton winked at her across the table, hoping no one would notice this small sign of attention. "It's a shame Marina couldn't join us," remarked Irina from accounting, the only one familiar with Anton's wife. "She would have been proud of you." Anton took a sip of champagne, concealing a sudden tension. Marina. He hadn't called her all day, too busy accepting congratulations and planning the future, a future where she had no place. "She's not feeling well," he lied, not blinking, "but we'll celebrate at home this weekend." Alina's phone suddenly vibrated. She glanced at the screen and her face changed. The smile vanished, replaced by an expression of shock and disbelief. Her fingers frantically slid across the screen, opening some files. Anton watched her from the corner of his eye, continuing to engage in conversation with his colleagues. Something was wrong. Alina turned pale. Her hands began to tremble. She abruptly stood up, mumbled an apology, and headed for the bar's exit. "Excuse me." Anton set down his glass and followed her, trying not to attract attention. A light rain was falling outside. Alina stood under the entrance canopy, clutching her phone to her chest. Her eyes were filled with tears. Mascara began to smudge. "You lied to me," she whispered as Anton approached. "All this time. You lied." She turned her phone screen towards him. In the photo, Anton was embracing a blonde on a beach in Sochi, the same one he had spent 3 days with during his business trip a month ago. A casual fling. Nothing serious. I don't even remember her name. "Where did you get this?" Anton tried to take the phone, but Alina stepped back. "What does it matter?" My voice trembled with rage and pain. "You didn't just cheat on your wife, you cheated on me. All this time you said I was special, that we would be together when you got the promotion." Anton looked around. A few passers-by had already slowed their steps, attracted by the loud conversation. He tried to take Alina's hand, but she snatched it away as if from fire. Let's talk in the car, he suggested, lowering his voice. I'll explain everything. Explain what? How you fucked that blonde while swearing your love to me? Alina could no longer hold back her tears. Or how you plan to leave Marina for me, although in reality, I'm just one of many. She turned and walked away, leaving Anton in the rain, which intensified with every passing minute. He wanted to chase after her, but his phone vibrated in his pocket. It was the bank calling. Anton Sergeyevich. The operator's voice sounded concerned. We've detected suspicious activity on your accounts. Over the last hour, large transfers to an external account have been made. Do you confirm these operations? Anton froze, trying to process what he had heard. What transfers? What external account? No, I didn't transfer anything. What amount are we talking about? The total amount of transfers is 4,180,000 rubles. We have temporarily blocked your cards. Anton didn't hear the rest. 4 million. All of his and Marina's savings. What the hell is going on? He tried to call his wife, but his phone was unavailable. The rain intensified, turning into a downpour. Anton ran to his car, dialing a message to Alina as he drove. He needed to resolve one problem before dealing with another. Forgive me. Let's meet and talk. It's not what you think. There was no reply. Anton started the car and headed home, speeding and breaking traffic laws. Anxiety grew within him, not just about the money, but about the strange coincidence. The photos Alina had, the missing money, Marina's unreachable phone. As he approached his home, he saw the flashing lights of an ambulance. The vehicle was parked directly in front of his building entrance. His heart skipped a beat. Had something happened to Marina? He parked haphazardly and rushed to the entrance. Neighbors were crowding at the door. Anton pushed past them and saw paramedics carrying a woman on a stretcher. To his horror, he recognized Alina, pale, unconscious, with an oxygen mask on her face. What happened? He grabbed one of the doctors by the sleeve. Are you a relative? The doctor asked, not stopping. Me? Yes, I'm hers. Anton stammered, not knowing what to say. A pregnant woman, severe bleeding. Possible miscarriage, the doctor threw over his shoulder. We're going to 22nd Hospital. Pregnant? Alina was pregnant with his child. Anton stood frozen, trying to process this news. They had always been careful, used protection. When could this have happened? He wanted to follow the ambulance, but remembered Marina and the missing money. He needed to sort things out at home first. Anton went up to his floor and froze, seeing boxes neatly stacked by the apartment door. His things, all his things, were packed and displayed in the hallway like garbage. On top of one box was a note. Keys are with the concierge. Don't call me. Anton rushed to the door and inserted his key into the lock. It didn't fit. He tried again, then once more. Unsuccessfully. The lock had been changed. Marina. He banged on the door. Open up, we need to talk. Silence. He pressed his ear to the door, trying to catch any sound from inside. Nothing. I wouldn't make any noise if I were you, a voice said from behind him. Anton turned. The building's security guard, an elderly man with a gray mustache, looked at him without any sympathy. Your wife asked me to tell you that if you make noise, she'll call the police and I'll support her, he added, crossing his arms. It's not the first time I've seen guys collecting their belongings in the hallway. Listen, this is my apartment. Anton felt his blood boil with helplessness and rage. As far as I know, the apartment is registered to Marina Andreevna. The guard shrugged. So I advise you to take your things and leave peacefully. The car keys, by the way, are also with me. She said you could pick up the car. Anton clenched his fists. The situation was spiraling out of control. Marina had somehow found out about Alina, taken all the money, changed the locks, and now Alina was in the hospital, possibly losing their child. The phone rang again. This time, it was his mother. Anton, what's happening? Olga Petrovna's voice trembled with anger. I just received photos. You with some women? It's disgusting. How could you do this to Marina? Mom, I can't talk right now. Anton rubbed his temples, feeling a migraine approaching. I have a situation here. A situation. His mother raised her voice. You've disgraced the entire family. Marina is such a wonderful girl, and you... I always knew you took after your father, but this much. Anton hung up the call. It was too much. He sank onto one of the boxes with his belongings and buried his head in his hands. How could everything have collapsed so quickly? This morning, he was on top of the world. New position, prospects, plans for the future with Alina. The phone vibrated again. This time, a message from an unknown number. Anton Sergeyevich, this is Alina's husband. If you don't come to the hospital right now, I'll file a police report. She lost the baby. Your baby? Husband. Alina had a husband. Anton felt the ground disappear from beneath his feet. She had never mentioned a husband, always said she was free, waiting only for his decision to start a new life together. He jumped up, grabbed the car keys from the guard, and rushed out. His belongings could wait. He needed to deal with Alina and this mysterious husband first. The hospital's emergency room was in its usual chaos. Anton gave Alina's name, and a nurse pointed him down a corridor to the left. Intensive care is at the end of the corridor, but only for immediate relatives. Anton nodded and headed in the indicated direction. At the doors to intensive care, a man in his early 30s sat, tall, broad-shouldered, with a military bearing. Seeing Anton, he slowly stood up. "You're Anton?" he asked quietly, but in the silence, there was such menace that Anton involuntarily took a step back. "Yes. And you?" "Sergey, Alina's husband." The man looked at him with undisguised hatred. 5 years of marriage. You know, she and I planned for children. It just didn't happen for a long time, and then you appeared in her life. Anton remained silent, not knowing what to say. Everything he believed turned out to be a lie. Alina wasn't a free woman, waiting only for him. She was someone's wife, just as Marina was his wife. "How is she?" he finally asked. "How is she?" Sergey gave a bitter chuckle. "She lost the baby. Doctors say it was due to severe stress. This morning, she received some photos." Please like this video so YouTube knows you're interested in these types of stories and recommends more quality narratives. Marina woke up to the insistent ringing of her phone. The sun was already flooding the bedroom with bright light, filtering through the loosely drawn curtains. She reached for the bedside table, looked at the screen, and frowned. An unknown number, the third in the last half hour. "Yes," she said groggily, bringing the phone to her ear. "Marina Andreevna, City News Agency. We'd like to get your comment on the situation with your husband and his mistress. Is it true that you are Marina?" She hung up and sat on the bed, fully awake. What was happening? How did the journalists get her number? And more importantly, what did they know? She opened the browser on her phone and typed Anton's name into the search bar. The results made her freeze. Dozens of news articles published in the last 12 hours. Director of a major company detained after hospital brawl. Love triangle ends in tragedy. Wife avenges cheating husband, depriving him of everything. Marina scrolled through several articles, feeling a chill spread through her. Details of their private lives, photos of Anton and Alina, and screenshots of bank transfers. It had all been made public. Someone had leaked the information to the press, and they had done so professionally and ruthlessly. The phone rang again. This time, it was her boss from the architectural firm where Marina worked as a lead designer. "Did you see the news?" Elena Viktorovna asked without preamble. "The whole office is talking about it. How are you holding up?" Marina took a deep breath, trying to gather her thoughts. So her colleagues knew now, too. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. "Yes, everything is fine," she lied, getting up from the bed and heading to the kitchen. "I just wasn't expecting such publicity. You're the heroine of the day, my dear." Admiration, unfeigned and abundant, colored her boss's tone. Most women would have sobbed into their pillows. But you, good heavens, how did you manage it? I always said you weren't one to shy away from a challenge. Marina winced, pouring water into the kettle. She didn't feel like a heroine, more like a victim of circumstance, acting on autopilot fueled by shock and fury. "Listen, can I take a day off today?" she asked, realizing she wasn't ready to face her colleagues and their questions. "Of course. Take 2 if you like," Elena Viktorovna generously permitted. "Just keep me in the loop, all right? And if you need any legal assistance or anything else, don't hesitate to ask. The whole office is on your side." Finishing the call, Marina checked her social media and was appalled. Her pages were flooded with messages from friends, acquaintances, and complete strangers. Some offered support. Others condemned her, with some even requesting interviews or proposing appearances on talk shows. She closed the app and dialed her mother's number. She needed to warn her parents before they heard everything from the news. "Marinochka, I was just about to call you." Her mother's voice sounded worried. "Sveta from the next building just called me. She said you're in the news. What happened?" Marina briefly outlined the situation, omitting the most unpleasant details. Her mother gasped and wailed, oscillating between sympathy and anger. "I always felt something was off with him," she declared at the end of the conversation. "Too smooth, too perfect. You can't trust people like that. But you did well, my dear. You did the right thing by not putting up with it." After the call, Marina took a shower and brewed strong coffee. Her thoughts began to clear. She needed to act rationally, not succumb to emotion. First and foremost, find a good lawyer. If Anton got out of police custody, he would undoubtedly try to reclaim the money through the courts. She opened her laptop and began searching for information on divorce proceedings and asset division. An hour later, as she was engrossed in studying legal intricacies, a courier stood in the hallway with a large box. "Delivery for Marina Andreevna," the young man said as she opened the door a crack. "Sign here, please." Inside the box was a huge bouquet of white roses and a bottle of expensive champagne. A card was attached to the bouquet. "I admire your resolve. Sincerely, Sergei." Sergei. Marina frowned, trying to recall if she knew anyone by that name, and then it dawned on her. Mussolini, the very one Anton hadn't even suspected existed. But how did he know her address, and why had he sent flowers? Her phone rang again. This time, it was her lawyer, with whom she had consulted a year prior regarding the inheritance of her father's estate. "Marina Andreevna, I saw the news," Igor Dmitrievich began without preamble. "If you need legal assistance in this situation, I am prepared to represent your interests." "Thank you, Igor Dmitrievich." Marina felt a wave of relief. "I was just about to call you. The situation is quite complicated." "It's no more complicated than it seems," the lawyer interrupted confidently. "You do have a prenuptial agreement, don't you? The one we drafted before the wedding?" Marina froze. A prenuptial agreement. She had completely forgotten about it, the document signed 5 years ago at her father's insistence. Anton had scoffed then, calling it unnecessary caution, but he had agreed to avoid souring relations with his future father-in-law. "Yes, the agreement exists, but I don't recall the exact wording," she admitted. "But I do." The lawyer's voice held a note of satisfaction. "It explicitly states that in the event of proven marital infidelity, all jointly acquired assets shall remain with the wronged party. And judging by the news, you have ample proof of your husband's infidelity." Marina sank into a chair, feeling a strange calm spread through her. She had acted on instinct, driven by anger and pain, but it turned out the law had been on her side all along. "What should I do next?" she asked. "Wait, your husband will likely file a lawsuit as soon as he's released from police custody. We'll be ready. In the meantime, gather all evidence of the infidelity. photographs, correspondence, witness testimonies, if any. After speaking with her lawyer, Marina decided to leave the house after all. She needed to buy groceries and clear her head. She put on dark sunglasses and a baseball cap, hoping to remain incognito. At the supermarket near her home, her plan failed. The cashier, a young woman with bright pink hair, recognized her immediately. "It's you!" she exclaimed, a wide smile spreading across her face. "The woman from the news. Can I get a selfie with you?" Marina was taken aback, unsure how to react. Curious shoppers were already gathering, whispering and pointing at her. "I'm sorry, but I'm in a great hurry," she mumbled, paying for her purchases and quickly leaving the store. At home, another surprise awaited her. A summons from the police. She was summoned for questioning as a witness in a case of bodily harm. Alina's mother had filed a complaint accusing Marina of intentionally causing moral and physical harm that resulted in severe consequences. Marina reread the document several times, disbelieving her eyes. She was accused of deliberately sending photographs to Alina, knowing about her pregnancy, with the intent to induce stress and cause harm. Absurd. She hadn't even known Alina was pregnant. She immediately called her lawyer, who advised her to remain calm and prepare for the interrogation. "They won't be able to prove anything," he assured her. "You were unaware of the pregnancy and couldn't have foreseen such consequences. At most, they might accuse you of disseminating personal information without consent. But given the circumstances, the court will be on your side." The next morning, Marina arrived at the police station. In the corridor, she encountered an elderly woman whose face seemed vaguely familiar. The woman gave her a hateful look. "Are you happy now?" she spat out through gritted teeth. "My daughter is in intensive care. She lost her child and may never be able to have children. And all because of you." Marina stopped, stunned by this revelation. Alina's mother, for it was indeed her, looked exhausted and aged by grief. "I didn't know she was pregnant," Marina replied softly, and she hadn't wished her any harm. "I just wanted her to know the truth about my husband." "Your husband?" The woman gave a bitter chuckle. "The one you threw out and deprived of everything, and my Alina loved him. They were going to be together." What about her own husband? Marina couldn't resist. She had betrayed him too. She was having an affair with Anton. The woman's face contorted with rage. "What husband? What are you talking about? Alina was never married." Marina froze, trying to process what she had heard. If Alina wasn't married, then who was Sergei, who had sent her flowers? And who was the man Anton had fought with at the hospital? The interrogation lasted 2 hours. The investigator, a tired middle-aged man, asked the same questions repeatedly, trying to catch Marina in contradictions, but she held firm, repeating her version. She found the photographs, sent them to Alina, unaware of her pregnancy, and with no intention of causing physical harm. "Do you understand that your actions could have and did have severe consequences?" the investigator asked at the end of the conversation. "I understand that my actions were an emotional reaction to betrayal," Marina replied. "But I could not have foreseen such consequences and did not wish them. I simply wanted the truth to come out." After the interrogation, Marina left the police building feeling drained. Outside, a surprise awaited her. At the entrance stood the news that you like this story. Subscribe to the channel so as not to miss new videos. The courtroom buzzed like a disturbed hive. Journalists, occupying the back rows, whispered and discreetly took photos with their phones, despite the prohibition. The story of Marina and Anton had long since transcended a typical divorce proceedings, transforming into a scandalous saga that the entire city followed. Marina sat upright, her hands folded on her lap, trying to avoid meeting Alina's gaze, who was seated on the other side of the room. Pale, gaunt, with a downcast look, her husband's former mistress appeared nothing like the woman Marina had seen in Anton's embrace that day. "The court is in session. Please rise," the clerk announced. And the judge entered, a middle-aged woman with a weary yet attentive gaze. The hearing of Alina's claim against Marina for compensation for moral and physical damage began. Alina's lawyer, a stout man with thinning hair slicked back, commenced his speech with a dramatic description of his client's suffering. As a result of the defendant's intentional actions, my client not only lost her child, but also the possibility of ever becoming a mother. Medical reports confirm that the severe stress caused by receiving the anonymous letter with photographs precipitated premature labor, complications, and consequently, emergency surgery. Marina listened, feeling nausea rise in her throat. She hadn't wanted this, hadn't wanted to cause such harm. She had only wanted Alina to know the truth about Anton, to experience the same pain of betrayal that she herself had endured. Marina's lawyer, Igor Dmitrievich, maintained an impassive expression. When it was his turn to speak, he stood and calmly addressed the court. "Your Honor, my client did indeed send photographs to Ms. Sokolova. However, she was unaware of her pregnancy and could not have foreseen such severe consequences. Furthermore, we have reason to believe that Ms. Sokolova intentionally concealed her condition from those around her, including the child's father." A stir arose in the room. Alina jumped from her seat, her face contorted with rage. "That's a lie. I wasn't hiding it. Anton knew." Her voice cracked into a cry, and the judge was forced to call for order. "If Mr. Vorontsov knew about your pregnancy, why did he himself tell the investigator that he only learned about it at the hospital?" Marina's lawyer countered. "We have a copy of his testimony." Alina looked bewilderedly at her lawyer, who quickly whispered something in her ear. Marina watched this scene, feeling a strange detachment, as if everything unfolding was a movie plot rather than her real life. Suddenly, the courtroom doors burst open and a woman entered, a tall blonde with a noticeably rounded belly. Marina recognized her instantly, the very same third woman in the photograph from Anton's business trip to Sochi. "I apologize for my late arrival, Your Honor," the blonde said, confidently walking towards the front rows. "My name is Victoria Larina, and I wish to testify in this case." The judge frowned, not concealing her displeasure at the breach of procedure, but after a brief consultation with the clerk, she allowed Victoria to speak as a witness. "I met Anton Vorontsov in Sochi 3 months ago," Victoria began, placing a hand on her belly. "He introduced himself as a single man, saying he had recently divorced. We spent 3 days together, after which he returned to Moscow promising to maintain contact. A month later, I discovered I was pregnant." Silence fell over the room. All eyes were fixed on Victoria's belly. Alina sat with her head bowed, covering her face with her hands. "When I informed Anton about the pregnancy, he was initially overjoyed," Victoria continued. "He said he had always dreamed of having a child. But then I learned from the news that he wasn't divorced at all, that he had a wife and another pregnant woman." Marina felt tears welling up in her eyes. Anton had dreamed of a child. All 5 years of their marriage, he had convinced her to postpone having children, to focus on her career, to wait for a more opportune moment. "I am here to demand paternity acknowledgement and child support from Anton Vorontsov," Victoria concluded her statement, "and to inform the court that this man is a pathological liar, a manipulator, and a fraud." The judge declared a recess to allow the parties to absorb the new information. In the corridor, Marina encountered Sergei, the same man who had introduced himself as Alina's husband and sent her flowers after the scandal. "We need to talk," he said, pulling Marina aside from prying eyes. "I have information that could completely change the course of this trial." It turned out Sergei was not Alina's husband, but her former fiancé. They had broken up 2 years ago when Alina began working at Anton's company. "I serve in the FSB's Economic Security Department," Sergei explained, showing his badge. "For the past 6 months, we've been monitoring your husband and Alina. We have reason to believe they were jointly planning a large-scale embezzlement of company funds." Marina listened, feeling the ground disappear from beneath her feet. Anton was a fraud, a thief. It was incomprehensible. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked when Sergei finished. "Because you are also a victim," he replied. "And because I have proof that they plan to get rid of you after gaining access to your inheritance." Inheritance? Marina's father had died 6 months prior, leaving her a considerable sum of money and a share in a construction business. Anton had insisted she grant him a power of attorney to manage these assets, but she had kept postponing it, feeling an inexplicable unease. "I have a recording of their conversation." Sergei produced a flash drive. "They were discussing how best to eliminate you after gaining control of the inheritance. Alina suggested staging an accident during a vacation." Marina felt a chill run down her spine. She remembered how Anton had recently insisted on a trip to Thailand, suggesting they try diving, even though he knew she was afraid of the deep. "Why didn't you arrest them sooner?" she asked. "We needed irrefutable evidence," Sergei replied. "We were close to gathering it when this scandal with your revenge occurred. It disrupted our plans, but perhaps it saved your life." After the recess, the court resumed. Marina's lawyer requested permission to speak and presented a new witness to the court, Sergei Nikolaevich Demidov, an FSB employee. The room buzzed again. Journalists became more active, sensing a sensation. Sergei presented documents and recordings to the court confirming that Anton and Alina had been planning large-scale embezzlement of company funds. But the real shock was the audio recording of their conversation about their plans to eliminate Marina. "We need to make it look like an accident." Anton's voice sounded calm and businesslike. "The insurance will pay us $5 million, plus all her inheritance from her father, enough to start a new life somewhere in South America." "And what if she suspects something?" Alina's voice sounded concerned. "She's not as stupid as you think. She won't suspect. She trusts me blindly. Besides, I've already been slipping her sleeping pills in her evening tea. She's been so absent-minded lately, forgetting everything." Marina flinched, recalling her constant feeling of fatigue and memory lapses over the past few months. She had attributed it to stress and overwork, but now it all took on a sinister meaning. The judge interrupted the recording and addressed the prosecutor present in the hall. After a brief consultation, a decision was made to immediately detain Anton Vorontsov and Alina Sokolova on suspicion of conspiracy to commit murder and large-scale fraud. Alina, upon hearing this, jumped up and tried to flee the courtroom, but was apprehended by court bailiffs. She screamed that she knew nothing about the murder plans, that Anton had deceived and used her, just like the other women. Marina watched this scene with a sense of strange emptiness. Everything she had believed turned out to be a lie. The man with whom she had lived for 5 years had planned her murder for money. After the session concluded, Marina exited the courthouse accompanied by Sergei. Journalists rushed towards them with questions, but Sergei expertly pushed them back, helping Marina to her car. "What will happen to the apartment now?" she asked as they drove away from the courthouse. "I learned that Anton had secretly mortgaged it, taking out a loan for some business project with Alina." "Don't worry about that," Sergei replied. "The loan was obtained fraudulently. The bank will annul it after the investigation is complete. The apartment will remain yours." They stopped at a small cafe. Marina felt exhausted but strangely calm. For the first time in a long time, she could breathe freely, without a heavy weight in her chest. "You know," she said as they sat down at a table, "I actually loved him, truly loved him. Even when I saw Alina, part of me still hoped it was some misunderstanding, that he would come to his senses, come back." "People like Anton are incapable of true love," Sergei replied. "For them, others are merely tools to achieve their goals. You are not to blame for believing him. He is to blame for abusing your trust." Marina looked out the window at the people passing by, each with their own story, their joys and their sorrows. She felt like a different person, as if she had shed a heavy burden she had been carrying without even realizing it. "What will you do now?" Sergei asked. Marina pondered. For the first time in a long time, her future wasn't predetermined by Anton's plans, his career ambitions, his decisions. I don't know, she admitted honestly. Perhaps I'll start my own business. I have an education as an architect. I always dreamed of having my own design studio. Anton considered it frivolous.